Now, with what we've seen in the previous videos, we're ready to start creating our first patterns. So, I'm coming over here and create a new graph, and we're going to select our custom template, custom PBR, and I'm going to call it simple patterns. And let's press OK. Okay, so here we're going to start by creating a very simple pattern that's going to be like bricks. So we're going to use a node that we'll be using a lot from now on called Tile Sampler. We're going to add it from the spacebar. And this is what comes out. We've got a rectangle with lots of squares. Right now, you see squares because it's regular, but we want to make some bricks. And the bricks would be more elongated rectangles. So I'm going to change the amount on one of the axes. In this case, I'm going to decrease it in X until it gets to 4/16 in Y. And now the horizontal lines look a lot thinner than the vertical ones. So let's adjust that from the size parameters. I'm coming down here to size, and where it says size in X, which is the size of each rectangle on the X-axis, let's turn it up a little bit. Let's try 1.2. And this is the result. But in this case, the vertical lines are already very thin. So let's reduce it a little bit. Let's set it to 1.18. Done. And I think that's a good value. It looks a lot more regular. And that's it. So we have this pattern. And now, what we want to do to make it look a lot more like bricks is to shift half of the rows so that they're interleaved. To do that, I'm coming down here to the panel where it says position, and we have this value that says offset, which is going to move half of the rows. It's going to do it alternately. As we move it, you can see that it's not going to move all the even numbered rows. So in order to have exactly half of the rows, we are going to set it to 0.5. And you can see the result. We have a perfect texture of bricks, completely regular. And here we can connect it to our view node. I connect it, and here we have the result already in the three-dimensional object. Here we can also adjust the values of the tessellation a little bit. I'm going to Material, Default, and Edit. And in this panel, I'm going to increase the scale of the height a little bit. We're going to set it to 2.5. And here you can see that the detail is much more noticeable. We can also come here to Blur and give it a little bit of intensity. Soften the contours a little bit. Let's increase it a little bit more. 0.2 is enough, and that's it. So this is our first texture, our first simple pattern. I'm going to select this tile sampler and put it in a frame. And I'm going to name this frame Simple Tiles. And that's it. And this is going to be our first simple pattern. I'm going to move it over here, and we're going to do a second pattern. So I'm going to make another tile sampler, but this time we're going to make this pattern diagonal. So in this case, we're going to use a smaller number. Here, I'm going to use only 2 in the quantity in X, and for the quantity in Y, we're going to use 8. And now we want to make the diagonals. So I'm coming down here. We have the rotation menu. I'm going to open it, and from this controller, I can rotate this pattern. So if I move it there, you can see how it rotates. If I press Shift, it will rotate every 45 degrees. So that's what we want. Here, I want it at 45 degrees, so I'm going to leave it like that. And now, when we're done with that, we can see that it's intersecting. So again, we're going to adjust the size. Here in Y, I'm going to shrink it a little bit. We're going to set it to 0.8, and I also want to reduce it in X, because the idea is that we're going to put another line of these rectangles in the black area. So here, I'm going to reduce in X, and I'm going to set it to 0.85. I think 0.85 would fit us well in this area. So now we want to duplicate this texture. I want to duplicate it and rotate it so that it's facing the other way. I'm going to use a new node called Transformation 2D. I'm going to connect it, and from the transformation, I'm going to drag the left edge to the right and the right edge to the left, and that's going to invert it completely. Then I'm going to move it over here, and in the panel, I'm going to make sure that this is set to 0. Okay, this way. So this is the original tile sampler, and this is the one with the 2D transformation. They're just reversed. Okay, so now I'm going to blend them together. We're going to create a blend node. I'm going to merge both of them. Let's visualize this, and in blend mode, this should be in add. Remember that add will add all the spaces. I select add, and you can see what it looks like. It overlays these patterns. Now the next step would be to just move this whole 2D transform texture so that the white part is where the black part is. So we go to offset, and in X, we move it minus 0.25. Alright, and there you can see the result that we have left occupying all the space, and the last step would be to put a little bit of offset as well, but in the Y-axis. I'm going to move it until they intersect perfectly. Like this. There you can see the result. So, there they're perfectly intersected. Now, let's connect it to our output node. And this is the result. Here, as you can see, it looks quite irregular. It looks like the edges are very jagged, and that's because of the tessellation level. So I'm coming over here to edit, and I'm going to put some more tessellation here on this factor. Let's put it here, maybe at 10. So it looks a lot better. And I'm also going to increase the intensity of this blur a little bit. Let's set it maybe at 0.8. Just for visualization. There you can see that this texture already looks very smooth. Well, that's perfect. Now we have our second pattern. I'm going to tidy this up a bit and put it in a frame. I select everything, click on the frame button, and I'll call it diagonal tiles. I'm going to move it. Over here, I'm going to squeeze it a little bit so it fits better in the frame. And that's it. So with that, we have our second pattern. Now, we're going to make a third pattern, which is just going to be a variation of this one. So I'm going to select all of this and press Ctrl D to duplicate it. I'm going to move it down, and in this case, I want to make a texture that's very similar, but I want to make it with a lot more density, with more tiles. So I'm going to select this tile sampler. And this time, I'm going to set the X amount in 4. I put 4, you can see the difference. When we check this final blend, they overlap. So we have to play with the offset again in the transformation. I'm going to move it around a little bit until I'm in the middle of the other two. There it is, minus 0.12. The exact value should be minus 0.125. Perfect. And I think in Y, we need to raise it a little bit. Let's set it to 0.62, and that's it. Okay, so now we connect to the display node here. And this is the result. Remember that we have other options to visualize here. Let's try rounded cylinder and see how it looks on other objects. I will call this frame diagonal tiles 1, this one diagonal tiles 2, and we are done. So with this, we've already done 3 patterns that are pretty simple, and every time we make a new one, we're going to gradually increase the difficulty level while we explore the possibilities we have in Substance Designer. So I'm going to save this file, and I'll see you in the next video.